Alright, so here's the first video out of the videos I'll be making for this new tank, the Recife 40 Aquatop. I know I say that name wrong. I try. Anyways, this is just a video showing the unboxing and assembly of the stand. This will be the first video with many to come on this tank. I'm obviously going to be doing it similar to the way I've done it with the 32.5 gallon fluval. So stay tuned. The next video will most likely be about the tank itself. Then we'll get into the aquascape, setup of the tank, and so on. Anyways, let's get into this. I hope you enjoy. All right, so let's get into this here. We got the box right here. This is just basically the writing, that it shows on the side. Open it up, you can see that it's pretty well packed. They got a lot of bubble wrap on this baby. It's packed in there tight. They got the pieces, they got the packing pretty well figured out as far as keeping it from getting scratched in shipment here, because it's a real pain to get the box undone. There's some of the hardware that it comes with. All the different nuts and bolts, latch, door hinges. Then I'm just going to get into it here, open the box up, take a look and see what's inside of it. We have you can see how everything, there's the instructions, which by the way, those instructions, if you're the kind of person that needs instructions, you're going to be in trouble on this one, because it's basically just a picture with about 5 arrows. I didn't even bother putting any of the information on there with it for you. But that's how they got them all packaged. I don't know, it's really a pretty good packaging. They got it all packed in pretty tight, and then there's bubble wrap in between everything. All the pieces, they come like this, like I show you on this one. They all have a finished side, which is a real shiny, slippery side, and that side is all covered in plastic. It's a protective plastic, obviously, for scratching and whatnot in shipment. Just to make it easier, I'm going to take all that off before I put it together, so I don't have to try and get into different areas around the stand when it's all standing up. I'm just going to take my time and pull all that off of there. That's the way it looks there. See how it's shiny? Now that we're, into this part of it here, this is basically just the hardware. Like I like to do on these, I mean, obviously everybody has their own way of putting together a stand. But I like to take and put all the hardware in before I put it together. I know most instructions and stuff I've seen in the past, they don't really call for that, but I prefer to do it this way. Just put all these in on each and every piece. I'll go through them here with you, show you what's all involved. I would recommend when doing this, I mean, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is let's get a drill with a power tool. Let's get that involved. But the way they have this made, it's just kind of a press board type stuff. And then it's covered, with this finish. And then these spots where I'm screwing in, they're almost like a little rubberized thread hole. So I'm afraid that if a guy went and you over tighten them even just a little bit too much, you'd end up being in trouble. Probably have to, I don't know, glue one in or something like that. So it's best just to take a little time here and do the whole screwdriver method. That way you can assure yourself that they're the tightness they need to be, as well as not over tight and stripped, have everything stripped out, for example. But I'm just going to go around here now, make sure that they're all tight. Kind of just show you on this piece here. I'll show you a little more different components as we go here, but basically there's really only 5 or 6 different fasteners in this whole project. It's actually kind of amazing when you think that you're putting the weight of a tank on something like this once it's done. They seem to work. So then we're going to switch over here to the hinges. I'll put them in on the doors. There's 2 screws for each one, and then there's a little, obviously you can see where it sits in there. It's a round pocket. These are the same way. These don't even have the rubberized type little insert. They just actually screw into a hole that's been drilled in the presswood. So any kind of power tool here, I think you'd be sorry you did it, especially if you just, I mean, I suppose if you had one and you had the setting turned down to where it clicked as soon as anything got snug, you might be all right. But this stuff actually really goes together pretty easy. Everything is, obviously drilled and set for the exact size that it's meant to be. So it all is working out pretty good that way on this, on the store here. Well, on any of it, actually, it's all been really good that way. They start right away and screw in without much problem. But this is, just the assembly of the door hardware on this particular piece. Like I said, I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I'm going to go through the whole thing, make sure I got all the hardware on before I actually switch to anything else. Now here's some more of the sides. These are the two outer sides. These are where they have the little, I don't know what the proper term for this is, but it's that little round disc there that you see me pushing in them holes. It basically just goes in there, and then when them pegs go in, you turn it and it locks around them and it holds it together tight. And again, this kind of thing here kind of always amazes me because it actually does hold together quite well. And so they really do the job that they're meant to do. So there are a few more of these pegs here that go in there for the sides, so I'll be putting them in as well. Just going to go around all the pieces and make sure that they got the, I'll end up tightening these all up here after I get them in as well. I know this is kind of long and drug out a little bit here, but a lot of people have asked, when I do something like this, I don't do a lot of like assembly videos, but when I do, they want to see the whole thing go together so that, I don't know, if they have any questions, whatever, they can go back and reference that particular point. That's why I'm basically showing the somewhat of an elongated version of assembly. I mean, I could simply just do one board because they're all kind of a repetitive deal. But then I'll just go around here and I'll get these all tightened in. Now these here, there's 4 of these come with. They're just a little round metal peg. What they are is to hold up the shelf. So there's 4 of those. Really, there's no, they kind of just hand tighten in. I suppose you could get like a pliers or something if you weren't worried about scratching it up and, give them a little snug, but they go in as far as they need to just by hand. And those 4, this, like I said, just to hold up the shelf. Once they go in, there'll be 2 that go in on this side as well. As you can see, the pile of hardware there is depleting. But then now here's I believe this is the bottom, and this one has all the locks in it as well. It's just a matter of putting them in and then getting ready for the actual assembly part of it. Because them little pegs go into them. Just a few more on them to go around. It's pretty well done with them. But they do go in really quite easy. There was really no problem at all in getting any of this, to go together as far as time or anything like that. The whole project here went together quite quick. And then these are basically, I think, the end of it here as far as hardware. They're all the little round locks that you'd want to put on in there. So they go in basically just in each hole. You can see, if you look in this here, you can see where the hole is, where the actual lock needs to face. One goes out, one goes to the top, you know, one's to the bottom. You'll see where that's important here coming up, because I did do kind of a, I don't know what, a little bit of a blunder, and I left that in here so you guys could see that, you know, what I did and why it didn't work. It's that piece right there that I'm working on right now, that I actually put it in upside down. But that's, I believe, the last one on them. And I get one extra one here, so either I missed one or they sent an extra, but I believe that it was an extra, because I couldn't find any place else for it. But here's you know, just basically I'm starting on the bottom here. This will be the front little tab piece. Like you see, they just pop on there. Then this is where them little, I don't know, what you call them, locking nut type things are. You just basically give them a 3/4 of a turn, and then they lock right on into place. And that's all there is to putting these pieces together. Now that all the hardware's in, it's just almost like I don't know what you want to call a snap together model. I don't know if that dates me or not, or if they still make them, but used to be able to buy models and they just have instructions how you could snap it all together. And that's basically what this has become now that it's all the hardware's in. So I just turned this here to obviously get it so that it can be seen on camera. But that's the same concept. You just push them in tight, grab your screwdriver, give it the, you know, the half turn. Same way with up here, up on the top here. I'll show you see how the two pieces match there. Then you got the turn there, and now we got to go, you know, to the other side. I always like to give them a good snug, make sure that they're not going to come loose. But then once you have that side on, then it's obviously, I'm going to put this top piece on. Now this is a piece you can see where I was trying to do this for the camera and I wasn't paying attention. I actually put the piece on upside down, so later on in the video I will have to take it back off and flip it. But I had the center hole facing down instead of up for the top part. But that's basically how that goes. Once you have that on, then all your cross pieces are in place. So then it's just a matter of this other piece just sliding right in and, you know, getting locked down on the other side. And then your cabinet is really, at this point, it's, you know, really almost half done, because you just have a top and a couple back panels to put on and it's over with. So you can see the assembly of this tank, or not the tank, I should say, the actual stand is pretty easy. There's not much really involved to it. I did just flip it over so you could see that I did where the bottom ones turn tight, just like on the other side. That's what I'm doing there. So now you got the front piece, the two side pieces, and now here's where the back is. The back has a hole in it, obviously, for you know, cords and whatnot to work on, you know, to get stuff out the back of your tank. So it just goes down the two sides, which actually makes it real easy to put together, because then you don't have to, you know, do this with two sides trying to get the whole thing together while you're assembling it. But this one, there is going to be just one lock on each side like this. And then on the bottom here, when we get to that part, it'll show you the other side here. We'll pop that one on here quick too before we do it. So that one is going to be the exact same thing. It's just the other side. Put it on, give it a snug. And now these, you know, coming up here, these are really the only two actual, well, I mean, there are a couple screws for the hinges, but these are the only two major screws in the whole project, and they're kind of the way they have it, the way they have this stand built, a lot of the structure for this relies on these two screws, because of it kind of squares the whole stand up and, you know, keeps it from being, you know, wobbly. So there's the two screws. You can see they're a little bit larger than the other stuff that we've been using, and they're the only two in the whole kit. And they really have it designed, the stand, it's kind of, I didn't know how to show it on the video, but they have it kind of designed where the weight of the tank, it stays, once you put everything on there and everything, it all kind of squares itself up without much involvement at all. So it makes it really handy that way to do. But then once you get these in, then your back is pretty well done. Then it's time to, you know, basically move on to the top of it. And here's this is another thing that I did here, show you that that for some reason I was just picturing everything being square, but it's not. As you can see, it's smaller on one side than the other. So I have to turn it here. But it looks square, but I guess it's just enough off where it doesn't work without being exactly right, which is no big deal. I just thought it was kind of funny that I did that. But here you see those pegs on top that I'm pointing to that go in the back there, and then you see that one in the front. Well, you'll see coming up here, it should just all slide down without any problem whatsoever, but it isn't. And it's all because that one front brace piece that I had on there is backwards, or it's actually not backwards, it's upside down. So it's not letting that one locking pin through. And I'm determined to get it on at this point, and then I realize that you can see that one is facing down, the one I got my hand on there. So I got to turn that. So basically I'll just pop it off here and I'll turn it. I left that part of it out actually doing that, but it was hard to, now you can see where I turned it up. Now when I put the lid on, now all the pegs will fall in the right holes just like they're supposed to. Had me stumped there for a little bit when I first did that, because I was thinking it should do that to begin with. But now the same way, I just flipped it over so that I could get the camera in there. I'm going to go around to each one of them pegs and give the, you know, 3/4 turn to these little half nut lockers all around the top on the inside. That way everything locks down tight. The way it's set up, I mean, obviously you want that locked in so it's not loose, but the whole stand is pretty solid at this point, even without, you know, locking everything in. Now here's where we're going to put the door on. So to make putting the door on a little easier, you know, rather than having it stand there and me try to hold the door and whatnot, I was doing this with a camera, and so I just decided to lay the stand right on its side and then just slide the door right up to it so that I didn't have to, you know, have all the, I don't know if you've ever tried to put a door on while the stand is actually standing up, but it's awkward as hell if you're by yourself. Which I have the camera that I'm trying to run and the hinges I'm trying to put on, and this just makes the process a whole lot easier. And these hinges now, they have a little bit of a slot on them on each side, so you can actually slide the door up or down just a little bit if you want the, you know, to have the gap on the top larger or the gap on the bottom, or, you know, so that everything, once you have the doors are really the only thing that has any adjustment at all, and it's really not much adjustment, but it can make it so it's easier to put the, you know, to actually get the, how do I want to say it, to get the door on there correctly so that it's not rubbing on one side or the other. And so I'm going to put these all in. They're going to be in kind of snug but yet movable. And then I'll open and close the door here a little bit, and I'll kind of slide it, you know, till it fits just right. And then I'll go in and I'll give them a final snug. So see, here's where I'm kind of figuring out the gap a little bit and sliding the door a little bit so that it fits the way I want it. And now I'm just going to go back in and give them a good tighten up. And at this point, well, really at this point, the stand is, I guess, pretty well done. What's left here is there's going to be a door latch, or not, I don't know. It's not really a latch. It's more like a magnet type deal where it's kind of magnetic a little bit. And then it's got a spring in it, just kind of for a push and pop open door, which is kind of really nice on this. It is a little tricky to get used to because you have to, right there where them two holes are is where I'm going to be putting that piece in. That right there is what I was talking about. Now, it's really kind of handy, except for some reason, if you don't have your finger on the door right where that is, it won't latch. So, it took me a little bit to get used to because I thought that maybe there was something wrong with it. But basically, if you have the pressure right where that latch is, then it latches. If you don't have the pressure there, it just pushes in or pushes out and it stays unlatched. But the same thing goes with this piece here. I just grabbed it and started screwing it on. Once I finally got it on, then I realized that I had it, well, you'll see here in a minute because I took this part out. So I finally got it on, and now I'm going to just click this piece into this, or so I'm hoping to. But I actually put it in backwards. So now I got to take that little bracket back off and turn it around. I guess I didn't look at how the two fastened together before I put it on there. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure and, you know, save yourself a step. You could actually get it in there correctly the first time versus taking it off and flipping it around. But now that I flipped it around, you can see it pops right in. And then there's the button. And so then when you close the door, this is where I was confused a little bit, because when you push in on it, if you don't push in right on that trigger, it doesn't lock shut. It just stays open. As long as you put your finger right where that trigger is, it locks every time. So just see how it doesn't there, but then when you go down, it does. I just thought I'd add that because that was kind of a annoyance for me. But here's the finished product. That's what it looks like in the front. You can see the shelf is just sitting on the pegs in there, so you could easily take it out if you had wanting to put something under there, you know, add a sump or whatever you may or may not want to do. I'm just going to kind of give it a turn here, let you see how it looks from the back here, and then the other side. And then, you know, there we go. That's the finished stand. You can see how it's got a nice shine on it. It's really nice that way. Until next time.